So many times, religious people just kind of go nuts and decide that the simple gospel that Paul said he wasn't ashamed of, for it's the power of God to salvation, just isn't enough these days. And so we've got to come up with some new idea, some new gimmick in order to attract people's attention and kind of see if we can slip a little gospel over on them. By the way, Mark mentioned that tomorrow there's a teachers meeting. It's not, it's a preachers meeting. Some of the preachers in the area have been getting together up at the Castleton Church for a few months for a monthly sort of Bible study on one topic or another. I think they mostly use it as an excuse to eat lunch together. But the Castleton congregation has folded, or at least has sold their building and has moved to Noblesville. So that was not exactly centrally located anymore. So I suggested to them if they wanted to, they could come here for this month. And it's supposed to be at about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you want to come, I'm sure nobody will. It's our building. Nobody can run you out. It's supposed to be a study on premillennialism. Brother Brace Rutledge is speaking, and he is from Columbus, preaches in Columbus. So look with me, Ecclesiastes 7. Verse 29, and I'm going to read on into the 8th chapter. Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment, that in regard of the oath of God, be not hasty to go out of his sight. Stand not in an evil thing, for he doeth whatsoever pleaseth him. So we come up with all kinds of gimmicks. You know, we'd like to have better attendance here at the church. We'd like to have more people. We've got seats that are not full. We were talking to a fella, when was that? Friday, about working on some of the ends of the pews, especially on that side of the building. So we've decided we can take the ends off and haul them out, get somebody to refinish them. By the way, our pews are built, swears up and down. Well, up anyway. He confidently affirms that in about a month, the end of June, I think, is where we're going to refinish, reupholster these pews. But anyway, we were talking to him. He said, well, while I have the ends of those pews, have you going to have enough room? Well, unfortunately, yes. We'll have plenty of room. We'll just have to block off your pew back there, Kathy. And you'll have to find a new spot for a little while. But we'd like to have more people. I'd like to have more people. So maybe we can think of some new gimmick for better attendance, so we can get more folks here into the building. And one of those suggestions I have seen used occasionally in life is we have the preacher learn to skydive, and he lands out here in the parking lot. You better be out there if I ever skydive into that parking lot. But that's just nuts. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I've seen church after church. I imagine right now, I'm not sure we're online this morning, but I imagine right now, if you get online, you can find some church somewhere around, probably several, that have got skydivers landing in the parking lot, smoke billowing out. You can just imagine the sight. One of them's got red smoke, and another one's got blue smoke, and another one's got yellow, and they'll circle around one another, and then they'll land in the parking lot and wave their Bibles or something. I don't know what they'll do to make it religious. What in the world? Hebrews 10, verse 24. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. You don't need, surely Christians are not reduced to skydiving into parking lots. But, boy, everybody's in a rush these days. And so there are actually churches that have installed a fast service window. I'm sure that there's some music, some religious music. We could, knock out this wall, go out there to that parking lot, and Ryan could take care of things. And he could, we could put a little table over there, and you just drive up. We'll have some hymns playing for you out there, and we'll say a prayer with you as we bring the supper out to you, because goodness knows you're dressed to go somewhere else. And, you can get this done in 5 minutes. We're not quite like McDonald's where they say they can serve you in 30 seconds, which is a lie. But we'll get it in 5 minutes. There's a lot of folks believe that. Look with me in Revelation 1 and verse 10. John says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. Heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. Have we lost all respect for the Lord's day? All of it? Next week, I think Mark announced it, next week we have to meet at 8 o'clock. Well, do we do that because everybody wants to go to the race? Oh, we do that because we can't get in and out of this place because of all the people going to the race. But I'm sure that there's a lot of churches here in town that are having their services at odd times so that their members can all go to the sporting events. A fish fry. Boy, Kenny back there, he's been known to hand out samples. I've seen 2 or 3 of you hauling out Kenny's samples of fish. We could set up a great fish fry. I got a great fish fryer, and I've seen better. We could set that up out there in a couple little tents, and we could have a fish fry with, you come and we'll hand you Dave's bulletin or 2 so you can get a little religion with the fish fry, and maybe you'll come to church on Sunday because we served you such good fish that Kenny cooked. You don't think churches do that? Of course they do that. Look with me in 1 Corinthians 11. If any man hunger, let him eat at home, that ye come not together again unto condemnation. And the rest will I set in order when I come. You might also notice Acts 2 and verse 46. They continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house. Church isn't the place. Church isn't in the business of serving meals. That's just some gimmick people are coming up with to try to drag people in because they have absolutely no confidence in the gospel. Oh, no tie Sundays. Man, put out a big ad. We got a no tie Sunday. Come as you are. Well, there's an awful lot of brethren that are pretty well taking that to heart these days. I've seen people walk in here in some of the most ungodly outfits I can imagine in the Lord's church, showing very little respect for where they are and what they're doing. I knew a fellow one time. He didn't worship here. Maybe I could think of some examples for folks here. But he wore a suit all during the week. He was a sort of an executive fellow and a tie. And he would, to come to church though, he'd get out of that suit and tie. He says he wore that to work. He's tired of that. And he'd come to church wearing an old beat up sweatshirt, dirty pants. He'd be advertising some rock band or some sporting team. He had more respect for the business he was in than he did the Lord and his worship. I've seen other people who had more respect for weddings and funerals than they had for the worship of the Lord. They'd come in wearing sports clothes. I've seen them come in looked like they were wearing swimming clothes. Come on. Look with me in Matthew 22. When the king came in to see the guests' wedding, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. Now, this is something you need to understand. They provided wedding garments. You know, if you were too poor or unable to have one, they provided. Here was somebody who didn't have on a wedding garment. He just had on his old trashy clothes. He saith unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither, not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. You know, you wouldn't disrespect a funeral. You wouldn't wear, you know, if you're wearing clothes that you wouldn't wear to a funeral, what in the world are you doing wearing them to the Lord's church? And by the way, I've seen some pretty shabby things at funerals for that matter these days. Maybe, I tell you what, Honor, maybe if we gave away a free tie to the first 50 men that come, you know, we could do a scarf for the ladies too, just to make it equal. We don't want to be prejudicial about that. Been done. It wouldn't be the first church in town doing that. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 40, let all things be done decently and in order. Surely we don't have to give people a prize to come to church. You know, a lot of people talk about our bus out there because they're so down on busing. That's Mom's bus. That's not the church bus. But, you know, maybe if I would not glue, but put, you know, Scotch tape on a $10 bill and put it under one of the seats and advertise that. Say, hey, get on the bus. Some lucky winner is going to be on the seat with a $10 bill under it. You reckon we could fill the bus up? I bet we could. I bet we could. 1 Corinthians 14, 40, let all things be done decently and in order. A recreation center. Boy, I tell you what, I could cancel my gym membership and not go to a recreation center since I don't go to the gym. But at least I could say, hey, if my church has got a recreation center, we can go out there and we can play basketball, which I don't do anymore. We can just recreate. We got that big grassy lot out there. Church owns that. We could use that for something like a recreation center. Luke 16, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. He that's unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore you have been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? Folks, surely we don't need a gimmick to get people in here. Well, how about our contribution? We're going to take up contribution a little while, and maybe occasionally we need extra money, more money than we're getting. We could have a carnival. That's another thing we could do with that grassy lot. We could bring in the tilt-a-whirl and a Ferris wheel and, you know, have one of those shooting galleries where you could just come and shoot the fire out of bottles. Wouldn't that be a good idea? And we'd put a booth out there about the church too. You don't think that's done? Isn't that done? They have a great carnival up here in this Catholic church just north of us. I passed by. And those days they have that carnival, that place is full and running over with your neighbors. Bible doesn't say much about it. He says about our contribution in 2 Corinthians 9, this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly. He which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give. Not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. Couldn't say God loveth the guy that rides the Ferris wheel the most. A good bingo game. Boy, everybody. You know, do you like bingo? You don't think there's a few churches that have bingo games in them? Oh, yeah. You know about those, don't you? Bingo every Thursday night over at the church. 1 Corinthians 16, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I've given order to the churches of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store as God hath prospered him. We don't have to get money by virtue of a bingo game. This is how we acquire money. From the free will offerings of our members. Let every one of you lay by him in store as God hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. Fresh roasted peanuts. Boy, I tell you, wouldn't that be nice just to you get them on an airplane? I think they still do that. You get a little bag of peanuts and a drink of some sort. So people come in here and instead of giving them candy, you women are creating cavities in every kid here. Give them peanuts. It's more healthful for them. We'll have peanut hulls all over the place after you do that. But think of that. What a wonderful idea. The church could give out a bag of peanuts to everybody. It's fairly cheap. We get more people in here. We can put that on that big movable sign out there saying, free peanuts to the first 50 attenders. I've noticed some of our members kind of come in late lately, and so maybe if we give free peanuts to the first 50, we'll get them in here a little earlier, too. It sounds like a great idea. What about indulgences? Oh, there's a seller. There's a seller. Let me ask you something. Which one of you kids is going to answer my question? Anaya, you going to answer? Anaya, come on. What about if the church said, Anaya will, for $1, you're a kid, so I'm not going to make this too expensive. For $1, you can lie to your mom once. Doesn't that sound like a good deal? A free pass, God won't be mad at you. Well, your mom might be, but God won't be. And it's only $1. Now, for some of them, you're more adults. We want more money out of you for that indulgence. Is that what we have to do to get money? Boy, it's a real money maker. Folks like to sin. Well, what about a gimmick for being kind? No, what about that? Just for being nice in situations. You know, I've seen churches that have the Sweet Pickle Award for folks. Rita Green back there, so sweet, isn't she? Isn't she nice? I've known her for years. She's just the sweetest person. And so next Sunday, we're going to have the Sweet Pickle Award for Rita, and we're going to make a big deal. We give her a special cup with a pickle on the top of it. She's our sweet pickle for the Sunday. Your turn comes next. You don't think churches do that? They do it all the time. Ephesians 4. Let all bitterness and wrath and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be ye kind one to another. You're not going to get an award for this except in eternity. Be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another. As God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you, you are not doing this for the Sweet Pickle Award or a sticker. Ooh, a gold star. You get a gold star for 2 or 3 acts of kindness here and there. You welcome some visitors. Nathaniel comes up here every now and then and he fills out visitors cards and sends them out. And if you'll come up here and help him, you get a gold star. I tell you, that'll be nice. You get your name in the bulletin. We'll up the ante. Dave will put your name in the bulletin. You helped send out announcements to these people. You help send out things. James 1:27, pure religion and before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. This is a responsibility you have as a Christian. Medals of honor. Ooh. 2 or 3 of you have got a lot of kids and you're doing a fair job raising them. Right? Diana over here, she's about to have a third. She's got 2. They're pretty sweet kids. We're going to give her the Medal of Honor, especially if she has this third one. She gets a Medal of Honor for being one of the better mothers here in the group. 2 or 3 of you, I'm not so sure about. But Diana is okay. We're going to give her a Medal of Honor. Does that make any sense? You don't think that's done in churches? You'd be mistaken. John 13. After he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you? Ye call me master and Lord, and ye say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that ye should do as I have done unto you. Verily I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him. If you know these things, happy are you if you do them. Our responsibility as a Christian is kindness, and it is service. We don't have to get an award, sweet pickle or otherwise. Well, what about everybody loves their dog, don't they? Oh my, Fido, Puffy. Kathy brings hers in her car half the time. Let's have a service where we bless the animals. Ooh. And with that, instead of giving them communion, we can give them a Scooby snack. I think some of you still watch that cartoon occasionally on the old-timey stuff. We give them a Scooby snack, a little dog bone, and we bless them. Bless all the dogs. Huh? You don't think that's done? Oh, yes, that's done. Church after church will have a bless the pets service. Folks will drag everything in the world into that. They get all kinds of attendance. To do good and communicate, forget not. With such sacrifices, God's well pleased. I hope by now you're getting the idea. Maybe we need a new gimmick for worship. The whole idea of these songs we sing all the time. And so why don't we have a service that's sort of rock and Bach? Well, half of the service we have Bach, the other half we have rock. Or better yet, 2 services. We'll have the unconventional service, and we'll have the traditional service. The traditional has Bach. The untraditional has a bunch of these rockers. They're playing religious music to us. Ooh, that'll get good attendance. It's a great idea, don't you think? Colossians 3, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in songs and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. It's not an entertainment. In Mark 14, when they'd sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Ooh, women preachers, boy. Now, if we really wanted to be with it, we have a woman preacher, preferably a transsexual. That'll get them in here. Don't know what it'll get in here, but it'll get them in here. They'll be in here just lined up. 1 Timothy 2, that the women learn in silence with all subjection. I suffer not a woman to teach, nor usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. Well, that's not very politically correct these days. There's a whole bunch of folks that are not going to like hearing that. A singles worship service. Diana, or excuse me, there's hope here. Where's Andrew? Abby? There's hope. There's hope. We'll have a singles worship service. We'll drag all the singles from all over town in so you can hear a little gospel and you can meet and greet. What do you think, boys? Good idea? We'll only let the attractive girls come. Doesn't that sound like a great idea? Or if you're tired of all these kids running around like little wild hares, we'll have a senior service with special messages for the seniors. It'll be quiet and calm. Oh, it does sound good and spiritual. James 2. My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with respect to persons. We're not here to cater to the young people. We're not here to cater to the old people. We're not here to cater to the singles. We don't have respect to persons. If there come into your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place. Say to the poor, stand thou there, sit here under my footstool. Are you not then partial in yourselves and become judges of evil thoughts? Better yet, man, do you have trouble getting up at 8 o'clock for that service next week? Let me just tell you, I don't know which one of my family is driving the bus next week. Actually, I do. But that poor person is going to have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. They'll have to be dressed and ready and out in that old stinky bus, picking up Mom and Regina next Sunday morning. That is just nuts. Why in the world don't we have a service on Saturday? We don't have to worry about the traffic. We could just have it, at a convenient time Saturday. Some of this other stuff we could have with it about the same time. Maybe Saturday's really busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a holiday weekend. So there's a lot of people want to get out of town Friday night. So Thursday night is the time we could have our service. In Acts 20:7, on the first day of the week, the disciples came together to break bread. And Paul preached to them, ready to depart on the morrow. Continued his speech until midnight. Now, I'm not going to do that next week. or we may, y'all will all be feigning death and childbirth to get out of here. But do you not think there's a lot of churches that do that? Why? Well, it's a gimmick. We're going to get more people in. I want you to think with me about the need we have for simple authority in our lives, in our worship, in the church. You might look with me at Colossians 3 and verse 17. Whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus. Look for the authority. Giving thanks to God and the Father by him. In 2 Peter 1, according as his divine power hath given us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through the knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue. Man, a lot of these things sound like fun. But is this part of the things that God's given us to worship him? Are you looking through the scriptures for your authority? Does the Bible say anything about this stuff? Oftentimes, does it not just simply contradict it? In Romans 1 and verse 16, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. We read it here at the beginning. It's the power of God unto salvation. You might also notice 2 Timothy 3, verse 16. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. There's not anything in there that he left out. So you don't need to be putting anything in its place. Are you looking for authority in your worship in the church? Or are you looking for a gimmick? Do you have faith in the Lord? Remember that passage in Romans 1? I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It, not Scooby Stacks, not a Ferris wheel, not Thursday night communion. It is the power of God unto the salvation. In 2 John 9, he says, whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any into you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Remember the passage we started with over there in Ecclesiastes? He says, I have found that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. You need to be simply a Christian. You need to worship simply in the Lord's church that he gave you. You need to be satisfied with that, happy with that. The Lord will be happy with us. If you're not a Christian, come while we stand and sing.